What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my review of the Discraft Crank. This one is in the Z Lite plastic, which is Discraft's take on the kind of lightweight bubble plastic. This is the first one I've tested in this plastic type. It's also the first time I've thrown the crank. And interesting disc. It was definitely interesting to test it. I threw it on one round. I also threw it a lot in the field a few days later. The round, I was not digging it at all. Found it extremely flippy off the tee and just really tough to control. And then when I was out in the field, I found some uses for it for sure. And ultimately, it's a pretty fun disc. It's definitely not going to be something that I'm gonna probably not going to end up in my bag or anything like that. I think it's better suited for lower arm speeds, but I did have fun throwing it. I did find things that I could use it for if I were to carry it, and overall it kind of made me want to check out a crank in a different plastic type, like either the regular Z or more likely an ESP crank. That's something that I hope to check out sometime in the next few months, because I felt pretty good about the disc the second time testing it, and I feel like just that lightweight kind of flippy nature made it a little bit tough to control, where a heavier one might be better for me. So I'll give you a look at this guy. There's your stamp. There's the Z Lite logo, and you can see how the flight plate doesn't have any bubbles in it that I can detect. Maybe it does. You know, it kind of does have like some really tiny bubbles in the flight plate, it looks like, because it's not, you see with my hands there, it's kind of like foggy looking, so I think it might, but I think the bulk of the bubble action is going on in this outer rim. It's pretty obvious. There's the weight on this guy. It's 140 grams, which, I mean, is light, but I've been throwing 150 class for most of my time playing disc golf, so it's not really that far off as far as that. Like a lot of other bubble plastics, Blizzard Champion, etc., you can have this kind of rough edge where dirt and stuff can get stuck in the bubbles. The bubbles are kind of like exposed on the outer rim, and I don't know if that's coming up in the camera, but you can see there's kind of some dirt embedded in there, and there's not really much you can do about that. I washed this guy off trying to get it out of there, and it didn't really help. Kind of just get stuck in there. But there's your look at the rim design. It's not very wide at all. Let me see if I have anything else laying around to show you as a comparison. Got inertia, that's all I really got sitting here. But yeah, if you look at it there, you know, it's not a terribly wide rim driver for a 13 speed. It's pretty slim, and the overall profile of it is pretty comfortable in the hand. It lines up pretty good for me. It's always hard to show you guys it in my grip, but I think it feels good in the hand, and I didn't really have any issue with it. So if you're looking for a 13 speed but you don't want a big rim, crank might be an interesting choice for you to go take a look at. So as I kind of alluded to earlier on, this thing is very flippy. The first throw out of the gates, flipped it over, but I threw it flat. You know, I was just like, I'll throw it pretty flat, see what happens. You know, sometimes the Blizzard or bubble plastics or the air plastic or whatever it is, sometimes they're still really stable, sometimes they're really not stable. So I was like, let's see what happens. I'll just throw it flat, see how it goes. Flipped over, turned and burned. Just a terrible throw, not happy with it at all. The next throw, same thing. Turned over accidentally, not where I wanted it to go, and I tried putting hyzer on it that time. It still didn't really do what I wanted it to do. You know, and the pattern continued for the rest of that round, where every time I tried to throw it, I was throwing it on strong hyzer. You know, I was trying to take some energy off of it. It was pretty much flipping over on me no matter what I was doing, and I was pretty much about to write the disc off and just be like, look, this thing, I can't do anything with this. This is like a, you know, still has its place in disc golf, whether it be for, you know, for kids or for just people who have very little arm speed, you know, recreational type players. you know, it definitely has a roll, that kind of really flippy disc, but it still has good glide and speed, so it kind of, you know, gets some distance. But I also threw it for a roller that day, and it worked out really nicely on a roller, which is not something I can usually throw very well, backhand roller. Flipped and rolled very nicely, so that was cool. I was like, alright, so, you know, it's got some uses, but I don't know. Then I took it out into the field and had a little tailwind going, and this thing started to really shine. It absolutely bombs in a tailwind. I was throwing it on a hyzer, letting it flip up and ride, and it was just crushing in the tailwind, getting picked up and just carrying for days. And then I seemed to be able to throw it, you know, without getting it to flip accidentally pretty well in the field, no matter what angle I was throwing it on as far as the wind direction. Even after that, I was throwing it with the tailwind and then kind of back into the wind slightly, and I was throwing it really high on a hard hyzer angle. And I was still being able to control it pretty well, and it was getting good distance on almost all of the throws. So I feel like if I was going to carry the crank, especially one that's this flippy, it would be a tailwind driver. It would be a big open field driver where I just want to throw it on a hyzer, take a lot of energy off of it, and just throw a smooth shot, let it pop up and ride, and see where it goes. But ultimately, pretty fun disc to get out there and mess around with. But I think if you were to find one that's this flippy, and as I've said before with this kind of plastic, the bubble plastic, it's pretty inconsistent, so it's hard to say if you go buy one how it'll react, you know, if it'll be exactly like this one. I think it'll be pretty close, but it might not be this understable. But if you were to find one this understable, it would be great for people with lower arm speeds, great for like a beginner distance driver where you've been only playing for a little while and you want something fast and, you know, pretty flippy that you can get to flip up and turn over and come back and get you some distance. And it's a pretty fun disc. So that's my review on the Discraft Z crank. Probably Z Lite crank, that is. Not going to go in my bag, but still an interesting disc, and it definitely has its place in the disc golf world. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.